Welcome back, everybody. Today, tips and tricks to preserve perishable foods and strategic ways to freeze meals so that you can thaw, heat, and serve later. Kristina Vanni is a culinary expert, award-winning cook, television host, food writer, and recipe developer. She joins us now live via FaceTime from her pantry. I love it. Hey, Kristina.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to talk about pantry items and things that we store and can use months later. But I think a lot of people know and think that perishable foods, the fresh foods, are the ones that are really healthy.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's good that people are going out and buying those things right now. But you want to make sure that you're not going to buy it and it's going to go to waste. So we have some techniques for you today.
I like that. And the thing you say is this is the time to organize your refrigerator and your freezer and to be strategic about how we cook.
Yes, absolutely. So if you did do a huge grocery shopping in the past couple of weeks, you don't want that to go to waste. So the first thing to think about is what items can you store in the fridge or the freezer for later? So let's just say you have a loaf of bread that you would normally keep on the countertop. You can store that in the refrigerator for now. That's going to extend the shelf life. If you stocked up on a whole bunch of milk, I have a tip for you.
See, I love this because my mom just talked about freezing milk the other day. Yes. I've never heard of anybody doing that.
So, normally it's not something we would do because you can always go to the grocery store and get milk. But you know what? It's the area of the store that has been kind of picked over a lot lately. So if you have some milk and you want to freeze it for later, here's the tips. So first of all, you're going to want to undo the lid and then pour out or use some of the milk so there's a couple inches of head space there at the top because the milk is going to expand in the freezer. So then once that portion is out, just screw the top right back on and you can put it in the freezer just like this. But remember, this is only going to work for plastic milk jugs like this. You can't do it with a cardboard container or with a glass milk container because, of course, the glass will expand in the freezer.
Great point that I probably would not have thought about.
And also, one other thing, when you then take it out to use it later, you're going to want to thaw it in the refrigerator, not on the countertop to make sure it's safe. And you might need to shake it up a little bit to sort of reconstitute it. And for that reason, skim and low-fat milk actually works best for freezing.
Okay, and then you probably have to be conscious of using it up within a certain amount of time.
Yes, definitely. So it would be the same sort of rule of thumb of once it's then opened, you want to use it in that same amount of time as if you had bought it fresh from the store.
Great point.
Yeah.
One of the things that people have been doing lately is probably overbuying a little bit. And so they want to make sure that if they did that at the grocery store and they have a lot of things kind of in a frenzy to stock up, you suggest creative ways to make sure that those foods don't go to waste. And some of them are obviously freezing it.
Yes, and so actually you can make your own packages of frozen fruits and vegetables. If you had bought a whole bunch of fresh produce, you yourself can preserve it at home. So let me show you how you do that. So here I have, so what you do is, so here I have a tray of corn that I'm going to freeze. So I roasted some corn, and then in order to make my own frozen corn, what you do is you spread it out in an even layer on a foil-lined baking sheet like this. And then you freeze it, making sure that all the little pieces are separated. So each little individual kernel is going to freeze by itself. Then once they're frozen, that's when you can put it into an airtight container or in a plastic baggie. And then you have your own bag of frozen vegetables.
I love that. Do you have...
and
Go ahead.
What I was going to say is what's great about that is that you can make your own vegetable blends. So you can freeze a packet of, say, stir-fry vegetables ready to go for that, or vegetables ready to go for a soup, and you have it all set.
I love that. Do you have some safety tips as we prepare to freeze foods?
Yeah, absolutely. So always be sure to keep everything in an airtight plastic container in the freezer or a freezer bag. And then also try to remove as much air as possible when you seal that, because that's going to help prevent freezer burn. And then also, if you are making any meals that you want to make the whole thing and then put it in the freezer and save it for later, the key is you have to make sure that you allow it to cool completely, because you don't ever want to put something hot right into the freezer because that poses a food safety issue.
Great point. I freeze lasagnas sometimes, and I think that's a great tip to make sure you let it cool completely before you put it in. Is there a rule of thumb for how long things tend to last in the freezer, how long they're good?
Yeah, they usually, the general rule of thumb is usually about 3 months. Different items, can vary a little bit from there, but in general, that's about maintaining that nice fresh flavor. It will last longer than that. You just might, lose a little bit of taste along the way. So usually that's more about flavor rather than food safety, the 3-month rule.
One of the things you say, which I love, is cook once, eat twice. So I'm interested in your advice for making freezer meals for later.
Oh, absolutely. So that's one of my favorite things is that, if you're going to make a batch of chili, if you're going to make lasagna, like you were saying, the amount of effort it takes to make one is the same amount of effort it takes to make two. So have one now for dinner and then throw one in the freezer for later. And, you've already done all the chopping, you've already done all the cleanup. So it really is so much, you're saving so much effort by just doubling up on something and making twice as much of your favorite things.
And you can kind of do your own, because I know you've suggested this before, single servings. So almost like a frozen meal that you would take to work or that you would take on the go or something, you can freeze single servings of meals.
Yeah, that's actually another tip that I really like. So for example, I have this recipe for a really healthy and hearty white chicken chili. And with that one, what I love to do is take those little single serving plastic containers and divide it out and then freeze it that way. So then, someday for lunch, 2 weeks from now, you just go to the freezer, you pop it out, and you have lunch ready to go. So that's another tip is to, for things that that you might want to have that way, free single servings.
You also have wonderful recipes that you can make in the crock pot or the electric pressure cooker. They freeze well, which is great based on what we were just talking about.
Exactly. That was something that I was thinking about that those types of recipes tend to lend themselves really well to freezing because they tend to have a little bit of liquid in it. So like that white chicken chili I mentioned, that's a really good one. I was thinking about something else, of course, all of the bars and pubs, they're all closed down right now, but I have this recipe for a pub style split pea soup. And it is one of my favorites. It freezes like a dream. And one of the things that's fun about that recipe that makes it really flavorful is you actually put a little bit of beer in with the soup. And Milwaukee, come on. I know that you stocked up on beer. We all know you did.
Right.
So that is in your pantry. So that is a great recipe to make right now.
I love it. Thank you again so much. And we're going to share those recipes now because people can head to themorningblend.com to find the great white chicken chili, the split pea soup, the pub style, which is fantastic. Thank you again for your time.